So how do you fix fossilized mistakes? Well, the very first thing you have to do is you have to want to fix it. You gotta want to fix it. And I mean it. It's that simple. Because, if you don't want to change, if you don't want to fix it, no information, no research, no teacher, no video is going to help you. No course, no app, nothing. You gotta want to break that bad habit you've developed over the years. So now it's time for you to ask yourself honestly. I know I skipped the articles entirely. I say I read book instead of I read a book, but do I really want to change that habit? Is it really that important for me to change it? You gotta ask yourself that question and you gotta answer that question. Because, you might realize that, I don't think I want to change that. I don't want to make the effort necessary to change that. People understand me anyway. I communicate, it gets the job done, doesn't matter. All right. And it's fine. If after watching this video now for how many minutes, you've come to that conclusion, that is absolutely fine. Okay. But let me tell you, if you have that realization or if you think that way, you shouldn't be even following me here on YouTube in the first place, because my channel is not for you. My channel is not for learners like you who are just happy with good enough to communicate. The purpose of my channel here is the second type of learner, the learner who wants to keep improving, who wants to keep developing. You might be already a solid B2 level learner, but you want to get to C1. You might be a C1 level, you want to get to C2. You might even be a C2 level speaker of English already, but you are a lifelong learner. You want to keep improving your English. You want to keep learning new things, new ideas. Then, if you are that type of learner, you are more than welcome here on my channel. So the first thing you got to do is this. Do I really want to change that habit? Do I really want to fix that pronunciation mistake I always commit? You got to answer yourself that question. But once you've done that, then you have to become aware of what you want to fix. That means building a habit of critical self-reflection into your learning routine. Not just studying, but also stopping, listening to yourself, evaluating. Recording yourself is an awesome exercise, recording yourself and listening back, you know. If you have a teacher, you can ask a teacher to identify your most persistent errors. You can keep a mistake journal. My app, the B2 Edge, helps with that as well. There are reflection activities there that you do every Sunday, to raise your awareness of recurring blind spots. So imagine you have a teacher who corrects you in class. Start treating those corrections you get from your teacher as data. Write them down. Every correction is a window into your fossilized patterns. And then, and this is the part that most learners don't do, go back and review your mistake notes, your correction notes. The correction that happened in class on Tuesday will be forgotten by Thursday if you don't revisit it deliberately. Now, let me ask you another question. Those of you who love to have private classes, right? You've been having private classes for years. When was the last time, first, you took notes of the corrections your teacher gave you, and you went back and reviewed those corrections you received regularly? Once you have identified your fossilized patterns, resist the temptation to fix everything at once. That is not how the brain works. Instead, pick one mistake, one fossilized mistake you make all the time, just one, and commit to spending the next 2 months focused exclusively on that. One target, full attention, every day. So going back to the articles, if you are a learner who always skips the articles in English, you say, I read book last night instead of I read a book last night, great. You've identified the pattern you want to fix. Now commit. The next 2 months, you're going to fix that. You're going to start obsessing over articles in English. You got to use a, and the when needed. You are rewiring an automated neurological pattern inside your brain. And that takes time, that takes repetition, and above all, that takes intention. Intention, that's a great word. If you have the intention to fix your use of articles, to start using and the more often, to stop saying do a mistake and start saying make a mistake, with proper time, you will fix that bad habit and you will learn the good one. You will automate the good one. But you gotta be patient and you gotta be deliberate about that. Time, repetition, intention. There are no shortcuts at the level of the brain. Now, this is not about perfection in 2 months, okay? I'm not saying that you gotta use all articles every time by the end of the 2 months. It's just about shifting the balance. Think about it this way. If at the end of 2 months, you catch yourself using articles much more often than you were 2 months prior, that's already progress. That's already a win. It means that you are successfully rewiring your brain and you should just keep going. Awareness and commitment are not enough on their own. You also need to actively engineer situations where you are forced to use the correct form repeatedly. So, seek out conversations, writing tasks, speaking exercises where your target structure comes up naturally and often. Don't wait for the correct form to appear. Go look for it. For example, the do a mistake case, right? Imagine I always say do a mistake, do a mistake, do a mistake, but I need to change that. I got to say make a mistake. Make a mistake in the present, made a mistake in the past, I will make a mistake or I'm going to make a mistake in the future. Okay? I got to change that. How can I engineer situations to force me to use the correct form, to force me to use make a mistake? First of all, you can maybe write an essay. You can write a piece of writing of 250 words talking about the biggest mistake you have made in your life. So reflect, think about the biggest mistake that you regret in your life and write a 250 word piece detailing that mistake. You see, that is an example of an activity that will naturally force you to talk about mistakes and then use make a mistake, made a mistake. If you want to practice speaking, the same thing. Think about mistakes that people usually make when they are teenagers, in their adolescence years. And then record a monologue of yourself talking about those mistakes for 2 minutes using your phone. Talk about mistakes people usually make when they are teenagers. You see, that is an activity that will intentionally force you to produce make a mistake instead of do a mistake. This is what I mean by engineering situations that force you to use the correct form. That is challenging to do, I know, but with enough perseverance and creativity, you can do it, especially nowadays with all the technological resources we have available. But if you want something more automated for that, my app can totally help you with this. It already gives you the prompts you need based on the curriculum you are following. It gives you what to do, it gives you what to speak about, what to write about. You just show up and do the work. So if you want that, link in the description. So how do you know you are done? How do you know you have finally fixed a certain fossilized mistake? Well, you know it's working when you begin to hear yourself producing the correct form more often than the wrong one. When the correct form starts to feel natural and the wrong form starts to sound wrong to your own ear. That internal shift, that moment of self-correction happening automatically, that is the sign that the basal ganglia is beginning to rewrite the pattern. And that is when you can move on to the next mistake. And if this ever happens to you, this is actually a genuinely exciting moment in your development. So it's worth celebrating. Yes, 2 months ago, I was saying do a mistake all the time. But now, 2 months later, that I've been more intentional and deliberate about it, I hear myself speaking, make a mistake more often. Sometimes I still say do a mistake here and there, but the frequency is much lower than 2 months prior. Good job, you. Tap yourself, give yourself a tap on the back. All right. So celebrate that. And that's how gradually you slowly fix your fossilized mistakes.